We're catching up with Compulsion Games here at The Mix at E3. We have a few currently on Kickstarter. How's it been going for you guys?
It's been really good. Fantastic, actually. Yeah, we had a really, really strong start. We got a whole bunch of people that are really, really interested in what we're doing. It's great.
So I first saw the game at PAX East. You showed off a little sliver of the game. You got a playable here. It looked a little bit different. So how have you progressed since that first prototype?
All right. So when we had our first prototype at PAX East, we only had one area of the city. It was basically a little village where you could run around and it had rainbow all over the roads and crazy smiling people. But what we have now is basically a little blueprint of the whole game. So we have individual little islands, we have rivers, we have bridges, we have different areas of the game. So yeah, you have that little village, but you also have the bombed out garden districts, you have the high rise of the inner city, you've got a whole bunch of other stuff to check out. Yeah.
So how did these different areas sort of, in terms of the gameplay, how does these change the experience?
Okay, so in terms of gameplay, they change based on how far through the game you are. So you start in an area that's reasonably straightforward. You're not going to die too much. People aren't going to worry too much about what you're doing. They're just going to be like, hey man, don't steal my shit. And you're going to be like, okay. And then you're going to beat them up and steal their shit anyway, right? But then when you get further into the game, you have to learn how to blend in with the inhabitants, because you can't do what you were trying to do before. You have to smile in the right way, wave in the right way. If you try running, you're going to get in trouble. So the gameplay starts off reasonably simple, still quite hard, but reasonably simple. But it becomes much more complex over time.
Yeah. So what's the progression there? Is it that it's always going to be the village is the place where you start, and then you go to the high rises, and it's more difficult, or is it going to be randomly? Because I know it's procedural, so.
Yes. So right now it kind of depends which character you play. So we may change that over time. Not sure yet. But basically, one character will start in the Wastes, which is our garden district. It's basically a wasteland. They call it the garden district because they're like, oh, it's nice and it's covered with trees. Truth is, the trees are there because they haven't cleaned it up yet. So the main character that we have right now starts there, but other characters may start in different locations, providing a different kind of experience, because there are different challenges in each of those areas. In the garden district right now, it's easy to find water, no problem. In the village, good luck. So you kind of need to learn, how do I take advantage of each biome? How do I get the most out of it before I move on?
That's also something that you revealed after PAX East, the fact that you're unlocking new characters to play, and that's how the narrative plays out through the eyes of different characters.
That's exactly right. So each character has a story that they go through. We have an overarching narrative that covers the world and all of the characters. But when you play through a certain character, you'll go and meet other characters in the world and you have a full, normal narrative experience. You'll have to go hunt it out, so it's not like we guide you on rails and tell you exactly what you have to do at certain times. We say, hey, there's a dude over here, maybe you want to go check him out. And when you meet him, he'll tell you a story. And you'll have a little cutscene, and then maybe you'll be able to play as this dude and see that same cutscene. I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah.
Well, we'll find out later, I suppose. So what's the sort of experience been like, sort of interacting with all these backers and people, and sort of throwing yourself out there with your concept, and what's that been like?
It's been very interesting. Basically, we've been working with the community already before Kickstarter started, so we are fairly used to talking to people and saying, hey, check out, what are we doing? Is it good? Is it not good? Would you show it to your mum? Or is it complete rubbish? But going on Kickstarter, it's just suddenly we have over 3,000 backers. It's very hard to talk to 3,000 people at once. But it's been fascinating because you get more people looking at the game and saying, hey, have you thought about this? And I'm like, no, but I will now. Thank you. So it's been very enriching so far. It's been really cool. One of the favorite things we have is that we have a whole bunch of backers say, hey, please go and check out these games at E3. So we've been going around, seeing these games, seeing what we think of them. So far, I'd say the backers have pretty good taste, which is really cool. Yeah.
Well, it's a nice thing that people who back you have good taste, right? That says something about your game.
I hope so, yes. I hope so. Hope that didn't come off as arrogant, but yes, my bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the nice things about your Kickstarter, I feel, is the way that you sort of present yourself why you need the money. You need the money to sort of allow yourself the backers to sort of test the game and give you feedback and then design the game based on that. And it's a really nice sort of proposition.
Yeah, it's really interesting. People have been talking a lot about Kickstarter and why you go to Kickstarter, right? So if you go to Kickstarter that says, I need $1 million to make a game, you're like, do you? And it's very hard because a lot of people aren't entirely honest about what they're doing and why they're doing it. But for us, it's like, well, no, we really do need people's help, but we've already spent a lot of time on the game. So what we're asking for in the Kickstarter is basically helping us to finish the game. It does not represent the whole cost of the game itself. I think it's a really interesting thing because people don't know how much it costs to make games. You can make games as a guy in a basement and you maybe just pay a little bit of rent and that's it. But with us, we're this is what we do for a living. So we've got a big team. Well, it's big now. So it costs a lot of money to make games. We try to be as honest as we can with everything that we do. Yeah.
I agree, because I think people have sort of they think that millions of dollars is a lot, but in terms of like a big game production, it's very little money, really.
That's exactly right. I mean, people have rough ideas about how much things cost, but it's very complicated, to be honest. Most games are made with a combination of money the studio has. You often have an investor of some kind. You might have a publisher. In our case, we don't have a publisher. We have the Canadian Media Fund, who are very, very supportive of Canadian independent video game studios. And honestly, is why Canada has such a fantastic, fantastic scene. But often Kickstarter is a really great way of A, getting people involved, but B, saying, we've got this game. We want to make it amazing. Can you help us? So, yeah.
That's also something that costs a lot of money. Testing, getting people to test it and listen and get that feedback and focus groups and all that stuff that the big publishers have. And that's something that Kickstarter can provide while also providing fun.
Well, that's exactly right. And people misunderstand this. It's not like we want people to tell us, hey, you've got a bug here. We know, we're aware of this. We don't care. We appreciate the feedback. What we're more interested in is, hey, what do you find fun? What's cool? Tell us what you like. And that's what the great part about working with the community is. They can be like, hey, Sam, that thing you made, that was shit. And I'm like, oh, was it? I thought it was good. And they're like, no. No, it was rubbish. And we're like, okay, well, what if we do this? And they say, yeah, that sounds cool. And so you've got this ability to get instant feedback on what you're doing. And so far, people have been saying what we've been doing is really good, which is good, but, it's kind of great that we have the ability to make something. We build it. We take a couple of weeks to make it. We put it out. People say, great. They say, not great. It's very, very helpful for us. Yeah.
And what's the roadmap now? If you buy into the Kickstarter at a certain level, you get into the sort of the PreAlpha,
Yeah, that's exactly right. So at a certain tier that we have, we're giving out PreAlpha keys. So as soon as the Kickstarter completes, we're going to send out keys to everybody. We've got a new build that we're working on right now, so it'll be different to what everybody's seen before. And the idea is that hopefully we'll be able to work with people at the PreAlpha level for quite some time and basically get their opinion on, is this good? Is this what you wanted to see? Is it not? And why? Yeah.
And at some point, when you feel comfortable, you'll proceed and sort of release it to the general public.
Yeah, so it kind of depends a lot on how the Kickstarter goes. If we do very, very well, then we may be able to go straight to release. But I think it's probably more likely that we'll go to early access in several months. Ideally, we'd work closely with our PreAlpha backers for a long time. And then when we feel like the game presents actually something that people would be very happy playing right now, then we'll go to early access. And people can say, hey, this is cool. But obviously we'll pay a lot of close attention to the people who've been following us for a long time. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thank you.